Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Okay, so today, we'll be talking about visualizing data in Excel to support business decision making. And today, our special guest is Mrs. Omowunmi Adenuga. So, she'll take us into how to visualize data in Excel, in Microsoft Excel, and how we can support business decision making. So, good afternoon, Good afternoon, Miss Adenuga.
On mute.
Sorry, the age-old mute
That's the
and talk to
usual
yourself.
suspect.
So sorry about the delay. Good afternoon, and thanks once again. Thanks for the opportunity to present at this session, and I'm hoping it's going to be a fruitful one. Let me just start to share my screen quickly. Okay, please let me know if you can see my screen.
Yeah, I can see your screen. Everybody see your screen.
Yes, do I see it here?
Okay.
All right. Okay, so I'll just get started. So the brief I was given for this session was to spend time talking about pick a subject matter that I, based on my knowledge of Excel, and kind of just speak through it. And over the years and with all my journey in Excel, I think the one area around when you think about reporting in Excel, analyzing in Excel, building models in Excel, I think the one area that I would say is probably of significant interest to me and I have the most passion in is the part that has to do with data visualization. And maybe if I spend a bit of time talking about my background, you might understand why this is the passion area for me. So I'm a management consultant. Well, I spent 7 years in management consulting, working in Accenture and then Deloitte after a while. And one of the learnings, and for a good amount of time I spent in strategy consulting, which was around working with clients through their business problems, clients across private sector, governments, and the like, walking through their business problems, and business problems will come in different shapes and sizes. They could be strategy problems, it could be operational problems, it could be data problems, it could be process problems, business process problems, and different types of problems. And one of the things I learned very quickly as a management consultant that it's one thing to go into a business and diagnose the issues and identify where the pain points are. It's another thing to effectively communicate the outcomes of whatever findings or whatever diagnosis you've done in a persuasive manner to inspire action. Because in addition to being a management consultant, I'm also a change manager. And for me, where value is as in bringing all these lines of work together is actually effecting real business change. I don't like to just do a lot of work and do a lot of talking and then nothing happens. I like to do the kind of work that leads to real action. And so one key learning as a management consultant was the art of communicating persuasively, because it's one thing to go into a business and then go to the management team and say, these are all the issues we found and these are all the opportunities we identified. And it's another thing for them to say, oh yes, this is the real problem. We see that this is the problem and we're going to take action. And one of the things that just in line with that is in the art of communicating persuasively, it's really in the presentation of the information. It's about how the information is presented. And because a good amount of the information that we're presenting were data points, they were zeros and ones, they were numbers, they were values, if you will. Excel was the main tool of presentation. In addition to, well, Excel then translated to PowerPoint. And in presenting things in Excel, something that really if you wanted to speak, if my aim was to present information in Excel, I had to go beyond just presenting rows of regular data tables that are just black and white rows, several rows and endless columns of data. I had to look for how to improve the information so that my decision maker who I'm presenting to doesn't have to scour through endless tables and endless rows to understand, to try and find out what the problem is. They could, at a glance, just looking at the board, identify that this is where the issue is. These are the areas that there are problems, these are the areas that there are opportunities for solution, and they could quickly take the decision that they needed to take. So in thinking about that, again, all of this kind of culminated into what I refer to as the pathway for data to decisions. And from the data analyst perspective, you usually start from gathering the data. Data is always in several places. Again, a lot of what I'm going to be saying is from an enterprise perspective. That is, if you are a data analyst in a business that is charged with the work of making meaning out of rows and columns or tables or piles of data, so you might be able to relate closer with what I'm saying. So it would start with gathering data and then analyzing the data, and there's several ways to analyze data, like summarizing it, aggregating it, doing maybe some complex mathematical functions on it, but there's always a point where you have to convert that data into real information, and that's a whole process of analysis. And then after the analysis is done, and then we can make out some meaning from the data, like things like in May, there were 10,000 units sold in this region. In June, there were 5,000 units sold. That's information now. That is, data has converted into information. The next point is really around. Hello?
Hello?
Can I go on?
Yeah, you can go on.
Oh, okay. The next point is around deriving the insights from the data. And then after that, communicating those insights to decision makers. This is the pathway that work always usually followed. And I'm sorry, I wanted to say, please, at any point in time, if you have any questions that you want to ask, you can type them in the chat window. I'm not able to see them because I'm seeing only my presented screen, but once I step it down, I would respond to those questions. So this is what the pathway from data decisions look like. And the pivotal point for me is typically this last point here, because you could have spent so much time. And I guess one of the learnings is around understanding that it doesn't matter, again, sending the point down that it doesn't matter if you spent so much time, so much energy, so many hours from stage 1 to stage 3. Stage 4 is where the real action happens, because all this effort that you have spent in the first 3 stages will not be meaningful if this last stage is not impactful. And that, for me, is really what this presentation is about. It's really around asking ourselves the questions as people that are helping businesses to solve problems. Because the whole essence of data and analyzing data and learning how to use Power BI and Excel and the likes is around solving problems solving data problems, solving problems through data, if you will. And the real question we're trying to answer is, how can we use MS and Excel for the purpose of this presentation to simplify the path to decision making? And that question is really, that question is, it's the pivotal point. It's the essence of this presentation I want to go into. It's really around how do I bring my knowledge, or how do we bring our knowledge of Excel in visualizing data to establish ourselves as valuable contributors in the organizations we are, or with the data problems that we're solving. And this is the point for me that is a pivotal point, because it's not so much around learning several Excel formulas or several tips in Excel. It's really around how those that information is being translated into skills or value to elevate your professional endeavors, if you will. So my approach to this short webinar is just to, what I'm going to do now is just demonstrate some ways that some tips that can be used in improving the visual components of the information we're presenting in Excel, so that we can do stronger visualizations, just to improve the art of visualizing in Excel. And then some of the features I'm going to walk through are things that you might be familiar with as Excel users. It's about bringing them to life. You're bringing them all together to bring information to life in a bolder fashion. And then afterwards, if there are any features of interest in the dashboards I flip through, we can then spend the Q&A session to just talk through how they were built, if there's any one of interest. So this, for me, it's where it all starts. It's the guiding principle, which is around a picture is what, which says a picture is worth 1,000 words. That's, and the interpretation of this in this whole work of data visualization is using every opportunity as possible, looking for opportunities, as many opportunities as possible to show instead of tell. That is, if you look at a data point, you're asking the question, is it possible to show this, that is, visualize it, rather than just presenting it as numbers? You ask yourself that question, and if there is, you leverage that opportunity to show instead of tell. So anywhere a visual can replace or partly replace a number, use it. And that practice just draws people in, and it spikes their curiosity. They want to know, or they want to learn more. And where graphics or icons cannot be used, colors and text formatting can be used to send that message, to make the message clearer, because the essence is the other key principle is around thinking of the data as points in a story, and thinking about how the points in the story are coming together to tell the full message of the insights in the story. So I think the other thing I wanted to mention is that just in making the case for visualizing data and using more of data visualizations in Excel is that visualized data helps the process of decision making. It creates like a virtual reality, and it immerses your audience in the information with colorful, relevant visuals rather than black and white rows and endless columns of data. So people make better decisions when they are closer to the scenario, when they are brought into some kind of virtual reality, because the scenarios have been made very visual to them. So back to now to from our point of view of application, there are two key, based on my experience and the work I've been doing, the two key applications of data visualization in Excel. The first one is for performance reports, and then the second one is for scenario models. Performance reports, one way you can think of performance reports are any kind of data reports that is trying to answer the question, what has happened? So it's always reporting on things that have happened in the past. It's always backwards looking, if you will. It's always a summary of events or business performance that has taken place at a past point in time, at a point in time in history. And one way to think of scenario models is they are always trying to answer the question, what will happen? And again, unlike the performance reports that are showing things that have happened in the past, the scenario models are trying to paint a picture of what will happen in the future, given certain variables. So before I go into what I have, the next set then a series of dashboard snapshots on these. But a couple of principles I wanted to highlight is, I think I've spoken through them already, that make good use of color, use of emphasis. Then the other thing is around not overloading the views. So if you're communicating to executive management, you try your best not to overload the views. And then another thing is to add short text, explaining the data or shedding more light on the data where possible.
Oh, sorry, what do you mean by shedding more light to the data if possible?
That is, so instead of just putting a number like 578, that 578 can be the summary of the data analysis. That is, you gather data, you're analyzing the data, and the final summary is the number 578. So rather than just putting 578 there, put context to that number, make it clear what the 578 is referring to. Is it referring to units sold? Is it referring to value of transactions? What is it? So it's just different elements making reference to, and then I will speak to some of the elements in some of the dashboards I'm going to look like at now. So I'm going to then flip over to show some snapshots of performance reports and scenario models, and then I'll just speak through certain elements I believe are helping those dashboards do the job of visualizing the data. The first one I'm going to show is this sales performance report. This was built in Excel, like you can see that from the ribbon and the header areas. This is a sales performance report that is showing performance by geography in units sold. The side to the left is showing performance by geography in units sold, and the side to the right is showing performance by geography in millions of dollars. And something that happened, sorry, unfortunately, this was supposed to be a video to visualize what will happen when the slicers are clicked, but since we, for some weird reason, the video is not playing. So the key elements, visual elements I wanted to point out in this view. Sorry, I want to make notes as I'm going. So the key visual elements that are coming together to make this. Please, can you see my ink? I'm making notes on the.
Yeah.
All right, good, thanks. So one thing is, the first one I would like to point out, this is a slicer. And the slicers are like from the pivot table. So the slicers, this slicer, it filters the information by month so that you are able to click on a particular month and then see the performance for that month. The other key visual elements are the custom formats here. So these are custom number formats. They're called custom number formats in Excel. And unfortunately, the video is not playing. You would have been able to see that why they are called customer number formats is that they change when the value change. So this, you can see that the numbers 82, 89, 72, 61, these are showing in red. 102, 109, 106, they're showing in green. And that's because this custom number format has been set up with a criteria to ensure that every time the percentage is greater than or equal to 100, it shows green, it becomes green. And every time it's less than 100, it becomes red. And what the value of the video would have shown you that the numbers change with each month. So you'd have seen how the numbers were changing as the colors change with the numbers. So even though it looks static now, if you click on the slicer and the number, let's say for division 5, for percentage achievement, if it changes from 61 to 120, that color will change to green. So they are conditional formats, they're custom number formats. And if you want to see a demonstration of that while we're in this session, you can let me know in the chat window. And then the last visual feature that is really helping this this particular dashboard is what we call conditional formats. And again, that's a standard Excel feature. Those three elements are really helping this dashboard, really helping to elevate this dashboard from just being a series of numbers and values and text to a functional view that quickly communicates, tells the user whether we are seeing a good performance or a bad performance month on month. either by units or by millions, by value. So that's for this one. I don't know if there are any questions so far. If anyone wants to ask any questions before I move on to the next one.
So far, there are no questions. Are there any questions? We're all following. Nobody's.
Okay.
Yeah, no questions at the moment.
All right. So this particular one, like I mentioned, there are two types of reports. This one we're looking at is a performance report. Now on to the next one. This one is a scenario model, in that the previous one was answering the question, what has happened? So it was reporting historical performance for the past 4 months, which are now in the past. This one is a sample dashboard that will probably apply from a supply chain perspective. And it's like maybe in that planning, you're trying to understand as a planner to understand how much it's going to cost to transport a ton. Again, this is, and what this does is just to distill this model down. There is a section on the model that talks about the assumptions, because every scenario, every model has its assumptions. For you to say that in 2022, there will be 10 million sales, you have to have made assumptions of what 2022 will look like. So this area is the assumption area, and then it highlights what the assumptions are, because we're trying to identify how much it will cost to transport. It highlights the assumptions in terms of fuel cost per liter, the vehicular fuel consumption, how much to pay the driver per hour, the hourly cost, and then the travel speed. So those are the assumptions there. And then it brings all those assumptions together to compute the final cost to transport, which is over here. Then the next point is the name fails me, but it's like if you think of it, is the selection panel. It's the area that allows you to choose your destiny. If you, I don't know, I think that phrase is from one of these video games, but it allows you to make scenarios, if you will. So the main view that you can see, this box that says distance between this table matrix that shows distance between major cities in kilometers. So it's a matrix that maps the from cities on the rows and then the two cities on the columns. And it says, okay, if I'm starting from Bauchi and I'm going to Ibadan, how much is it going to cost? How much is it going to cost to transport? And for every from city and to city that you select, it summarizes the travel distance over here. It gives you the length of trip, and the length of trip is based on these assumptions in terms of the kilometers in between the cities and then the kilometer per hour, assuming that the driver does not exceed the speed of 75 kilometers per hour. And they're going to a city that's 1,018 kilometers. How long is it going to take them in hours? That's the what is computed there. Then it also summarizes, gives you the, well, I like to call this area the intermediate results. So it says you have selected this from city, selected these two cities. This is the distance, this is the length of trip, this cost of fuel. And cost of fuel is based on fuel cost per liter, and then the vehicular fuel consumption. Basically, it's a mathematical computation that brings all those items together, and it gives you the cost per fuel. And then it shows cost of labor, which is if the driver is going to drive for 13 hours and his pay is 500 naira per hour, that's the cost of labor. And then the final cost to transport, which is this area here, it adds up the cost of fuel plus cost of labor and gives you the cost to transport that value from Enugu to Katsina. Again, of course, for most of the people on this call who live in Nigeria, you know that this is very simplistic. There's more to the cost of transport than fuel and labor. But this is a very simplified view. And the beauty in Excel is that you can add more elements to this view to give you a more robust answer to the cost to transport. But the thing about this, the way it's built in Excel, is that this view allows several opportunities for interactivity. So you notice that this number and this number, this value and this value, what I'm highlighting in orange, will always correspond to whatever is selected here and here. This value will update based on this one on the table and this on the table, all these colored boxes, and then this two will update based on what is selected here and here. So it's also a very interactive model, if you will, and it enables you to quickly visualize. So you can think of this, that rather than just putting a regular table, where this visual started from, it was an Excel with just this matrix. Where it all started from, it was a simple Excel sheet with just this. Let me show you what was, I'm going to highlight in red ink what was the original Excel before it became transformed into a scenario model. So this was what was the original Excel sheet. It was just a regular table with rows and columns with city names in the rows, city names in the first column, and city name in the first row. But rather than just giving this sheet to someone and say, okay, go and identify what's the distance in kilometers and all of this, all these other elements were added there so that the person, the user, the end user can quickly visualize what will happen based on a difference in scenario. Okay, because of time, let me quickly move to the next view. I would skip this one because I want to, okay.
Yeah, sorry, madam, can you send us all these various templates? Maybe you can send the link so that we can have it now.
Yes, I have the link to this one on my YouTube channel, which is 101 Excel hacks. I believe it's still up, and if it's broken, I know it's been like a year since I put it up there, but if it's broken, just drop a comment for me on that video and I will update it.
101 Excel what?
Hacks.
H-A-C-K. H-A-C-K.
Yes, H-A-C-K-S. And this other one, sorry, I'm probably going to have to skip it because I can't find the source video for that, source file for this. This one, too, this is also a scenario model. And then this one is trying to answer the question of lease versus buy. So maybe I'll speak through what was happening in the organization and what gave rise to this this particular design, the build of this Excel sheet. I just realized my video was off all the while. Doesn't hurt to see my face. Okay. So what was happening was the business was trying to make a decision. They decided not to buy cars. They decided to, for their day-to-day, for their transports, they decided to use a car rental service. And that the car rental cost month on month was accounting for a significant amount of month-on-month spend for the business. And the question they were asking themselves is, people were torn. Some people believe that the car rental was better than buying cars and having to maintain cars and having to pay for drivers, pay for fuel and all of that. While some were of the opinion that if the business bought cars, that cost would go down. So this was a cost optimization piece of work. And then the work was to identify whether lease versus buy and look at what the financials come to in a 5-year period and see whether the business would have gained anything from switching to financial lease, which involves actually buying an actual car. Switching to operational lease, sorry, versus maintaining the financial lease. And then, like the other model, there's always the panel that there's always the panel of assumptions, because for you to authoritatively say that renting cars for business is cheaper than buying cars, or to say otherwise, you would need to have numbers to back up your point. And then these numbers were based on assumptions, were based on, of course, you can tell that this is old. It was based on dollar exchange rates of 388, inflation. These were the rates that that informed this analysis that was done. And then some certain car models were just selected, sample Toyota models, 4Runner. We assume they will need a 4Runner like a Jeep because they want to carry management, staff, and senior members of staff. Assume there'll be Corolla, assume there'll be Tacoma just to carry for heavy duty kind of work. And then there was the assumption on the year of preference that you would either all buy 2012 models or 2014 or 2016. And they were now, so that analysis fed into the number of cars that they will use and the cost of the cars. And then there was additional assumptions made in terms of if we're going to take out a lease to buy these cars, how long will the lease term be? Then if we're going to buy the cars, we're going to need to register the cars, these registration costs, insurance rates, maintenance cost per kilometers, if they're getting drivers, is their salary plus benefits, and then all these estimates were done. Then all of this versus if we maintained this our car rental situation, these are the costs that we would incur. We use the lease provider 116 times in 8 months, and each time we use, this is the cost per usage. So imagine this is the cost remain the same. What would the cost come to year on year for a 5-year period? This is what it came to. So all these numbers are derived from what's in the assumption, and then the final value over a 5-year period was confirmed, was put together side by side, 196 million versus 229 million, and then the savings, the savings was also estimated. I would switch over to the Excel version if you want more, if you want to see how this how interactive this particular model is. That's it's based on the yes.
Hello, madam, can you send us all these links now? The more templates you can send to us, including these ones and all the ones you have used, because it would to be a privilege, ma. All the templates you have been showing, that you have been working with, if you can share it with us now. The links, we'll appreciate it, ma.
Sure, I would have them. As you asked, I have to now remember where the link is. But I know most of it.
Okay, so I'm saying that the rated savings, so I'm guessing it has a conditional formatting on it now.
Which one is that? Sorry, let me stop sharing this and then switch over to Excel. Which one is that?
This one you're just sharing, the lease versus buy. Since you said it does, yeah.
Okay. So which part were you referring to the conditional format?
Okay, yes, I was right. The last at the end, you would realize savings.
Realize savings, yes. So you can see it's different for this one because we had selected, we were working with 2012 assumptions. So you realize that, of course, as we understand the cars, the cheaper they are, the older the year model, the cheaper they are. So depending on which years of preference, and this is kind of fixed, it just assumes they are going to pick the same model year for whichever one, whichever model you go with. And then you can see I flipped through the years. The older the year is, the higher the realized savings because the cars get expensive as time goes on. And then in this model, you can also update the number of cars. And as the number of cars updates, every other thing in the model updates.
And changes.
So this is how this one works. Are there any other questions? I think.
Hello.
Yes. Hi.
Okay. So these pictures, this hand and this little car. How did you? Okay, they're just pictures you placed there.
Yes, they're just images. Just brought them in, and some of them you might need to remove the background, but they're basically just icons that can be found. free stock icons.
Okay. Okay. Nice.
Okay. Is there any other aspect of this model I want us to walk through?
Okay. Oh, do you put the prices of the car in a separate place?
Yes.
Or
So this one, if you see that this total value here, if you see the formula working here, this formula is this. Okay. Well, I got the prices in dollars, so it was the dollar exchange rate multiplied by the number of units, which is D21. That's this number here, multiplied by the unit cost of the car, which is reading from this list called runner list. And then I'm just going to scroll down. I really just put runner list here. So this is where I got the cars, this is where I got the car prices, and then the table of the cars, it shows Toyota 4Runner. This place has years. I had to reduce the column. This is the cost in dollars, and then this is the cost. And then I had to also get MPG, kilometer per liter, AC factor, to factor in these other things that are running in the model as well.
Okay. Okay. Oh, then would it be possible to play with the other one?
Which one's that?
There's another template, the one before this.
Oh yes. The one right before this, cost to transport, right?
Yeah, cost of transport, yes.
That's this one. Yes, I said I was going to show this one. So this one assumes our forecast. What's our current forecast per liter in this country now? Those in Lagos.
I think it's about
last
time I know it was 160 something, but I keep hearing that they must have increased.
5.
Sir?
165 average.
165. Okay, let me update the model. 165. And then when you go to select cities below, this from has it's a cell with data validation that reads from all the city. The list in this data validation is this list, this Abuja to Uyo list here. And the same thing applies for the two. It's also data validation. It's a drop down running from a data validation, a list data validation. The list is this list here, Abuja to Uyo. So you change it to Asaba. For anyone you change it to, you'll notice that the color on the row and the column, the color of the city changes. And that is running on conditional formatting. So it's a conditional formatting that is running to test. Let me open the conditional formatting. Selecting the range and then going to conditional formats. So you see the rule that is working there is if this value is equals to C19, because the 2 is on the column while the form is on the rows. So whenever the value is equal to C19, and C19 is this name here, the name selected into, color is dark green fill with white font, and it applies to every name on that range. So that is why it would update every time this name updates.
Okay, so someone was asking how you did the data validation, like the drop down thing.
Yes. So yes.
Maybe you could
so
take them through the steps of how you did it.
Let me just set up something messy here. Let's say this cell here, I want to set up the data validation. I will just select the cell and then I will go to data, and then I would go to data tools, the data tools group, and then you see data validation, the icons. When you hover over the icon, you know that you're on data validation, and then you just select it and you open it up. You would see settings. Another settings, it would ask you allow. For it to work the way it's working now, you say allow lists, and then it's going to ask you for the source of the list. I want to use this range here, so I'm just going to select this range. This is the list I want to show up in the drop down here, and I just click OK. So as I do that, you see that the drop down shows up, and if I go in to click that drop down, it shows me exactly the same list that is here all the way. Okay. All right.
Hello. Sarah, I'll take you back a bit. I know you just said this. I just stepped out and I came in and I saw you saying it, explaining it. This area from Sokoto to Kwale, and when you select it, how the colors change on the columns.
On the columns.
How
so,
it keeps moving.
Okay, it changes because of the conditional formatting that I set up. And this is the conditional formatting rule. So the conditional formatting rule is whenever this value is equals to C19, and you notice that C19 is locked so that no matter where, because I probably started it from here, but I dragged it all the way out. So whenever the value, that is what has been selected, is equals to C19, change your format to, I don't know if this makes it easier, clearer. So you select a rule type, format only cells that contain cell value equals to C19. So the way to,
okay.
Let me do it again, and let me use a different color. So I would select this range to put the conditional formatting in. I'll select the range that I want the conditional formatting to apply to. I'll go to conditional formatting. I'll go to new rule, and I would say format only cells that contain, and I'll say cell value must equal to this, what is in here. And you have to make sure that there's a $sign in between because it's going to be an absolute value. So let me just select a different color so that you see that it's now working. That's selecting fill of dark purple, font color of yellow, and you click OK, and then I click OK. So it's already updated, and if you just even try and update it, you see that it applies, it keeps on applying. So that's fair.
All right, yeah, thank you.
Welcome. Okay, and then something else on this visual, also running with conditional formatting, is that the column, the value in kilometer always changes to light green font. So whenever you move it around, you notice that the value is changing. Again, so you can see it's really conditional formatting. It's the conditional formatting and data validation that it's making this particular scenario model shine and bringing out the visual elements in it. So this is for the model. These are for the models. I think there was one other one on performance report I wanted to demonstrate, which is so this is more performance. This is on the performance report side, and this is supposed to be like a sales performance dashboard for a farm, and it's showing the performance month on month and the performance changes. And what happens is that if you want to see a sale by a particular product, so the visual element that's really making this particular dashboard shine is, in addition to the filter, pivot filter that allows you to select a month and quickly see the value, is also this foods. I mean, these vegetables are clickable. So if you click any one of them, it will highlight the column you're on. So it will show you where to focus on. Really, it's a very subtle enhancement, but it's just an example of how you can quickly, what would have made it really nice is if the whole column was selected as you selected it, but it's just a subtle way of bringing attention to what is in view. So that's one, something else I wanted to just highlight in terms of.
Oh, was the button done with VPA or like this? The highlighting of the button, like where you click on the fruits, or you click on the vegetables and it picks.
It's a combination of VPA and conditional formatting, because you know that for anything to respond to click in Excel, and it's not a hyperlink and it's not a slicer, it has to be powered by VBA. So there's a VBA running that every time a shape is selected, let me see if I can flip over to the VBA view. Yeah, that's it. So this is what it looks like. It's a select veg, and it says for any shape that is selected, that is this shape, change the value in this range, current shape, to the name of the shape. Let me show you what current shape is. So current shape is here. It's actually hidden in plain sight. So it changes the name to this, and then the conditional format that is running in this table is that anytime this name equals to, let me just, again, like I was saying, show rather than tell. So anytime B2, if you remember, is current shape. Anytime the name is equals to D29, D9, D18, or D29. And if you notice, D9 is this row here. D18 is this row here. D29 is this row here. So anytime the name in B2 is equivalent to any name in this row, and even when you click into it, even though it's saying D29, you can see that it's selecting the whole row. Just color that name orange. So it's similar to what was operationally in the one we were talking about before. But all the VBA does is that it returns the name of selected shape into B2. And then the conditional formatting then takes it on from there. And then it identifies what's in B2 and just highlights the cell, the relevant cell for B2.
Okay. That's actually very impressive.
Okay. I'm thinking I've addressed these questions here, but if there's anyone in the chat window I've not yet addressed, just let me know.
Okay. Well, yeah, I've addressed all the questions. Are there any other questions or any? It's also someone just asking for if they could get the answer on the templates.
Yeah, and I mentioned it. Yeah.
I have a question. I hope I'm permitted to ask. So, wow, this is a lot. It's a lot more than even what you let us hone in at the beginning, like in the title. So you've added a lot for us that we are happy. It's like when you pay for one plate of food and you're given like 10 plates of food. You know. So I'm tempted to ask that here we will be allowed to ask you to come again, you know, at your own pleasure, at your own timing. You know, we understand that it's not a small thing to drag you out of your weekend or your busy schedule, but we've seen so many things that I know you are having to compress into like almost everything you are showing. I know it's like 1 hour, 1 hour, different things that can happen. So I just want to ask if maybe in future you'll be happy to do like another session for us on anything, because there's just a lot. Is it the VBA? I bet you there are so many people who they would like to hear your advice and your guidance on how they can even start overcoming that mountain called VBA. So it is something that we know that from this session you're having with us, like 5 other different topics are probably able to come out that I just want to ask, are you willing that we come stop you again in future?
Sure, no problem. Happy to join anytime.
Great. So that was my question anyway. I wanted to just quickly chip it in that hope, and you said yes, so we are happy. Yippee. Okay. If I'm done with my.
We are more than happy.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. So is that I didn't. Adiola, you say something else. Okay. Are there any other questions? Yeah. I think there are no other questions. Well, thank you for coming and thank you.
Hello.
Okay.
Hi.
Yes.
Let me stop again. Sorry.
No problem. It's your session actually. This session was supposed to be primarily Q&A. I'm actually the one just taking up time.
It's like I always keep doing lots of trial and error before I now get to the color and the whatever I need. I can't really say, oh, this is exactly what I do to arrive at. But if I'm working on a dashboard or whatever that is green, I will also so. But I know I just keep doing. So I don't know exactly where exactly to go to. But I know there are other options of slicers apart from the regular blue that comes up when you click slicers. But beyond those colors, I would also want to choose the exact color of what I'm working on. So I just keep trying and arrive at something, but I can't really say this is exactly what I did to arrive at that particular color. So, and I know that your slicer, I think this last page now, is ash.
Customized.
So when you click on it, you see it's customized. You see green, and I know that's not part of the ones, the extra slicers. I'm sure you did it by yourself.
Yes.
So where exactly do I need to go to?
So is your question just in relation to slicers or in general?
Just slicers.
Just slicers. Okay, that's a good question, because I also had to struggle a while before I kind of got the hang of it. So I wanted to show you an example. This is also another view I wanted to talk through, but I don't think I would have enough time. And you can notice that this slicer is a customized slicer. So the main thing I used to fiddle a lot with it, but the main area I would focus on updating, because usually the way the slicer action works is I'm using an example. Already the slicer has, the standard slicers already have a way of changing, highlighting. They have the standard colors for when it is selected and when it's deselected. So I don't bother trying to update those ones. So the only thing I really try and update, I would show you, I go to modify. But again, it depends on your own usage. But most of the time, I don't bother with this whole range of elements. I only focus on whole slicer, the fill for whole slicer, and the fill for header. So if I go into whole slicer and then I click format and then I just go to fill, I have changed the fill into this color I'm using. I can even update it, change the fill. Okay. And then I go to header, go to format, change the fill. Okay. And I click OK. So it has given me a very functional slicer that just matches my background. Even though for some people, they might have wanted this black that is showing selected to be darker, a darker black or a gray, but really, because when I want to do it and I don't want to stress myself, I just focus on changing the background colors, and the background colors are just the, and every time you change it, good enough, it saves it as a template. Every time, and I mean, the summary of what I just said is that all you need to do is change the fill of the slicer, and then change the fill of the whole slicer, and then change the fill of the header. It will give you a different look.
Okay.
Yes, it will give you a different look.
Okay. Thank
you. Sorry.
Can we have your number, ma? Please, what's your phone number, ma?
Consultancy,
something will come out of this.
At this point a bit. So yeah, we'll speak with her after the session to see how much we can give. But I know it's easy for us to connect to her we found her on LinkedIn. So yeah, I'm sure she will be happy. We'll try and share with you the LinkedIn. But also because, like she said, there are some of the things she's sharing that because we discussed with her at the beginning, there are some that are a bit confidential on our side. So we'll try and just find out which ones. Then since I have everybody's details, I can always give us the aspect that and without us putting her in trouble, because also too, she's been generous to show us real life works. So we don't want to put her in problem too. So we'll share as much as is fair enough to share, including of whatever we're able to share from what she's demonstrated.
The good part is all these ones are free to share anyway, so we're good to go. The only thing is, I think only 2 of them are not on my blog or my YouTube channel, but the rest are up there.
Okay. Hello, ma.
Including the finance processes.
this one is not up. This one isn't. So I wanted to, sorry, someone wanted to ask a question. I wanted to talk through this and the business use for this, but let me take your question first.
Okay, good evening.
Okay.
Hello, good evening.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening.
Oh, okay. I really enjoyed this session, but please, can you just do us the honor of giving us the link to your blog and the YouTube channel if one can go and check all these things there.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, I'll drop it in a message chat right now.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So let me just spend 5 minutes talking through this one. This one, again, because I'm running from the original use case I highlighted, which is around how we are translating the information that we get into visuals that help to drive the message further. So this is an example. There were process reviews, finance processes were reviewed for this business. And then there were 54 workshops. And for each workshop, there were issues identified and opportunities identified. The problem is all the solution came into this kind of Excel table that if you just send this to a user, they're going to struggle to identify where value is and where opportunities are. So this particular dashboard was created so that people could quickly flip through, use by interest, go to the finance process that is of interest to them, and then identify whatever issue that was identified, the frequency, the time, the position involved, the potential solution, and things like that. So that's what this particular one was for. It was part of what I was supposed to talk through, but I thought I was going to run out of time. That's why I skipped it. So I don't know if there are any questions on this one.
Okay, the only question I have about this dashboard is, okay, yeah, I think I've seen what I wanted. Okay, so I was wondering if this is an Excel form, right? Because I'm seeing this the drop down, like, or the buttons. That's
Yes.
Okay, you see the selections. Yes.
So these what you have here, this is a form control. This is a form control. This is a combo box form control, and then it enables you to select, just flip over to a particular issue, and then it will go, because each process brought up like 4 to 6 issues, and then it enables you to flip to a particular one and then just look at the summary. This is also a form control, but this is the spin button form control. And then this one works with numbers and enables you to flip through the numbers of so this particular workshop, there were 6 issues that came up. This particular workshop, 3 issues that came up, that kind of thing. We will show you the summary of the issue, and then you can flip through to quickly get to the issue that you want to. So it's just to enable, these are form controls to enable easy navigation of this worksheet. These are regular Excel cells, but they are formatted so that they look like forms. They look like form fields. And the way they are formatted is really just creative usage of borders. So I would show you, I'm going to go to format cells so you see the border style. So unlike your regular border style that will be all 4 lines complete, this one has just the upper and the left line complete. And that's why it has this depressed look, like a depressed white form field. While this one that looks like a button, it's the opposite way. It has the right and the bottom, so it makes it look like a button. Let me give you an example of what that would look like in just the blank sheet. So go to format cells, and then you just activate just this and this. So you see, it gives that effect. And if this was a different color, like, it gives the effect of a form field, if you will. Meanwhile, if we went to another cell and then we did the opposite effect, excuse me, it will give it a raised and elevated and it elevated effect. And so it looks like a button. And if I change the color. So some of these things around enhancing the visual effect is just about being creative about the usage of the standard formatting options that are available in Excel.
Yeah. Okay.
Hello.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do I get this drop down? Sorry, can you go to the dashboard?
Okay. This one.
How do I get that drop down menu on the issue on your right?
Okay, this one. This is a spin
down,
button.
I can click up and down.
Yes, it's a spin
button. Where do I get that function?
So let me demonstrate. It's a spin button. So you have to have the developer. You go to, it's available on the developer tab under controls. You see insert, and then you see form controls and ActiveX controls. This is under form controls, and then if you hover over it, you would see scroll bar, spin button. So you click it, and then you put the spin button there. That's it. And then the next thing is to program it. Hello?
Okay, how do you make it function?
Okay, so you right click it and then you go to format control. And then here you can program the minimum value, maximum value. You probably like 100, you can make maximum 100 and let it increment by 1. And then you make the cell link a cell very close to it so that you can see when the cell increments. Incremental change of 1. Notice that incremental change is 1, and then you click OK. So once you do that, and then you click it, you notice that the number increments. So if we had selected incremental change of 10, you would see how it would differ now. When you click it, it increments by 10 points. So that's how you get it to work for you.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, so are there any other questions? Yeah, okay. Okay, so there are no other questions. Well, I'll also say thank you for this session. Like, it was really insightful, and it actually showed a lot of creative and impressive way of building a robust dashboard in Excel. You have comments? Okay, so also to ask about again. Okay, so I told you I usually ask 2 questions at the end of every class, which is, first of all, I want to know about your journey so far, for maybe beginner to like what. Yeah.
Okay, my journey so far.
Oh,
okay. So like I had mentioned earlier in this session, my background is in management consulting. I started as a management consultant, and one of our work tools is, aside from PowerPoint, is Excel, working in Excel. And that's really how I picked it up. And then I think I took 1 or 2 courses, online courses along the way, just to improve. So, I mean, by virtue of work, I kind of had to pick up Excel skills because that's the work tool as a management consultant. But in learning how to enhance data visualization, as in improve Excel data through visualization, it was, I think, I kind of, where did it start from? I'll have to say, Chandu was who initiated me, and I'm sure you remember Chandu was here, was on this platform too.
Yeah,
so I was just wowed, blown away when I went to his blog and I saw the magic he used to do with Excel. That just blew me away, and that started my journey. That piqued my interest. That okay, so you can actually make Excel sing and dance like this. So that's how I started picking up a lot of these. How to optimize these features, use colors, use form controls, use tables, pivots, and pivot tables, pivot slicers to enhance the look and feel of performance reports. So it was really that for me. And the thing is, when I come across something and then I try to, I'm also someone that is really drawn to design. I just like seeing beautiful dashboards and beautiful infographics and all of that. And if you go to my YouTube channel, you see I have a challenge series on different dashboards I just see anywhere, all over the place, and I'm asking myself, can I recreate this in Excel? So I have the series of, I think I have 5 or 6 videos up, and I do my best efforts to create a very beautiful dashboard using Excel, using only the features that Excel provides. So I think from a journey perspective, that's the need for me.
Okay. Yeah, this is a YouTube channel.
Yes, that's it.
Okay, then also again, I want to ask again, so what would be your advice for like beginners? Of course, you guys should subscribe to our YouTube channel immediately.
Yeah, looking forward to hearing from you guys and getting your comments on that. So I think in terms of advice, it is, I don't know if this is, the big thing about it is there is, sometimes it looks like there's a lot to learn, but really the main thing that will be your fuel and keep you going is interest. And just be, what will I use the word? What word will I use? Be patient with the learning curve, because there's some times that you're going to have to try some things again before you get them. But I think it's really about being patient with yourself and just recognizing that there is a learning curve to this, and just be patient with the process and get into the habit of just being interested. And the interesting thing about Excel is that you find that there's so many, for some things to make some things happen, especially when it comes to macros, there are different roads to the market, if you will. So you will find that even if you're trying a particular approach and it's not going through, you can explore alternative approaches to get the same effect you want. Like some of the dashboards I showed, where I was showing stuff in Excel inside the cells, you can actually use shapes to do it, but that's another way of making those things work for you. So just be open to learning different approaches to get to the same goal, and then be patient with the process.
Okay. Thank you. That's usually all the questions. Well, I have one personal question to ask. So I want to ask, okay, so what's the easiest, or shall I say, what's the most effective way of learning like more about VPAs? Because that was one of the most impressive parts of all your dashboards, especially the VPA.
Okay, I think again it's from that interest perspective, and it's getting curious. We like to say it's developing a healthy curiosity with the process. And okay, it's 2 things: it's curiosity and laziness, quote and unquote. And I'll explain why I use the word laziness.
Okay.
So curiosity in the sense of if you find, like for me, where that fascination started from is when I look at other applications, like how web forms, non-Excel applications, web forms, how mobile apps work and how interactive they are, or even web applications, how they work. And I'm always just playing around with the fantasy in my head that, is this something that can be done in Excel? It's very weird, because it just feels like that, that thing that says, to a carpenter, every problem is a nail, as in you have one tool and you know only that tool and you're going to use that tool. But it's just that fascination, if you will, with thinking about if there's a potential of this thing working, using Excel to recreate this particular task or this automation. And then the next thing, like I said, is laziness. Laziness in the sense that if you find yourself as an Excel user, that the particular processes or particular tasks that you do on a daily or a weekly basis, and you know that this task takes you 3 hours and is a lot of trial and error, is a lot of back and forth, start asking your question that, can I do this faster? Is it possible to do this in a shorter period of time? And it would surprise you, because working with clients across different organizations, I've had to help them improve some of their Excel tasks. That there's some that take 5 hours, and then we find a 10-minute solution. You do that same thing that you've been doing for several years in 5 hours. You find a 10-minute solution with a simple VBA. And it's really, so when I say laziness, it's laziness, quote and unquote. That is, start getting frustrated with Excel tasks that take you a long time and start asking yourself if there could be a shorter way to do it, a way of automating the process.
Okay, what you are saying is that necessity is the mother of invention.
Exactly.
Exactly. Okay. So yeah, once again, thank you for this session, and I can say that this session was very good and impressive session.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
So in the chat board, I've kept a link to our blog and a link to the YouTube channel, and I think there's a link of our LinkedIn in case you want to connect or you have any more questions to ask personally. Then, like Mr. Michael said, we'll talk to her after the session to know what can be released and what can't be given out. So once again, thank you, and yeah, I just want to apologize that I've taken more than the amount we asked, more than the time we agreed on. So again, sorry about that. But once again, thank you for this session, and we hope that. Okay, I think Abraham has one last question.
Okay.
And me,
yes.
Just one line.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So
Can I
does it
go?
mean that?
No,
Yeah,
just
you
a
can go
yes or no question.
Okay.
Does it mean all these dashboards were built on VBA?
No.
It's not just Excel.
Not all of them. Oh, you mean, did we use VBA in building some of them?
Some of those dashboards you showed.
The cost to transport, there was no VBA. It's purely conditional formatting and data validation. The end-to-end, the process one I just showed, there was no VBA involved. The lease versus buy analysis, no VBA involved.
Okay.
It's only the John Soke farms, the one with the farm and the vegetables that were clickable. I think that's the only one that had VBAs in the ones I showed. Yeah.
I think the very last one. Yeah, that's it. Okay, then.
Yeah. Last one is form controls, which doesn't require VBA programming.
VBA. Okay. Then, okay, last question from Abraham. His answers be raised up.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. So I'm totally a newbie, but I was fascinated by what I joined. I didn't join early. I think I joined 20 minutes late. But to be honest, I'm quite fascinated, and I wished I knew about this community earlier. Like I said, I just joined. So I just have a question that relates to your story. So personally, I'm transitioning from, if you don't mind me sharing, I'm transitioning from sales to data analytics, right? And out of my eagerness and willingness to learn, that's how I found this community, and I wanted to, learn as much as I can or as I could. But I just want to get your insight from professionals like you and what you suggest, because like you rightly mentioned, there are a lot to learn. I didn't even know that Excel can do this much. I'm just hearing about VBA for the first time today. And like I said, I'm fascinated, I'm excited. But there's also the part of SQL, So for someone like me who's a newbie, do you recommend, okay, I just concentrate on one, like learn all I can on Excel? Or do you think it's something you can do? You are learning Excel, you're learning SQL, you're trying to learn Python and whatnot, because it can be quite overwhelming. I just want to get your suggestion and recommendation on that. Thank you very much.
All right. Okay. I think on the SQL part, I'll probably yield the floor to Michael because he's the greater expert in that area. So in terms of, in fact, I think there was something else I wanted to add when I was talking about this, because yeah, as in Excel dashboards can be fascinating, but it's always good to mention the limitations of Excel dashboards. That's why you notice most of my presentations are focused on the scenario models versus the Excel dashboards, because when you start dealing with big data, that's data that is running into hundreds and thousands of rows, you're usually better off using Power BI or Tableau or some of those tools that were custom built for data visualization to generate a performance report. So that is a limitation I wanted to highlight on the Excel process. So my answer to your question in terms of what tool you want to focus on, it's really going to depend. It's really going to depend. It's going to depend on the organization you're working with, and if you're in a role that you have to share your work, you have to work as a team, that do analysis with other users, and then you're going to think about where the
Oh, I think it's having some reception problems.
Yeah, maybe a network just flashed or something.
Yes.
I was beginning to think maybe that's my hand.
Oh, it's general. Okay. Okay. So. Okay.
Let me see if maybe I can reach down phone. Maybe since this is the last question she's answering, and I'm even interested in the answer too. And I'm sure many people are interested in the answer.
All right, now let's wait a bit for.
Am I back now?
Yeah, she's back. Yeah, you're back.
Yes, you're back.
Yeah, you're back.
You are answering. Where did we lose you? It was at the point where you are explaining that you didn't. Hello?
Yeah, she's back now. You know, she's still not back.
Oh, okay. I know he was talking about different tools to focus on.
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay,
yes.
okay.
Yes, we can.
Switch. Yeah, we're talking about different tools. Okay. Can you tell me where you got cut off? So I'll just pick it up from there.
You mentioned last thing you mentioned was about SQL. You said it depends based on your organization needs all.
Yes, I was talking about what would determine what tool you want to focus on specializing. Like I said, it depends. It depends on the other users in the organization you're joining. If those are people that you're going to be building reports with, you want to think about what tools they are proficient with, as in what interfaces they are proficient with, because you don't want to have to start building in certain interfaces that your other team members can't use or can't interact with, and then you'll get frustrated with what is being built. And usually that's why the baseline is usually Excel, because typically in most organizations, most people are expected to have some level of familiarity with Excel. That's why the default is usually Excel, but it's, in my mind, it doesn't hurt to learn about the others. But the answer to what you're asking about in terms of what tools you want, what data analysis tools you want to get into first, it's usually the baseline is usually to work with the baseline, lowest common denominator, if you will, what you know that you're building, and people will be able to, people have the ability or they have the
you are frustrating, sir.
The ability to interact with it.
Sorry for the.
I hope he answers the question. I hope I didn't get cut off again. I hope the question has been answered.
No. Yeah, the question has been answered.
Okay.
But your organization, what tool do you mostly use?
For me?
Yes. Like so, your organization. Yeah.
For my what?
Like your organization for your job role, like.
Oh, okay. Literally every job I have been in, it's been Excel, and then maybe a little bit of Power BI here, a little bit of Tableau there, but it's primarily been Excel.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so thank you once again, and thank you for this amazing session. So I think we've come to the end of the session. Then, okay, so yes, Mr. Mike asked, and I think everybody would be interested if you could maybe come again, maybe not now, but sometime in the future, maybe to
Sure.
maybe give us a walkthrough or something of a dashboard.
Sure, no problem.
All right. So thank you again, once again, for this session.
All right. You're welcome. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for being a very active class. Thanks for all the participation.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next session. Yeah. Okay, so the next session will start by 6 o'clock, which will be under Power BI. So I guess we'll see you then.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you all.
Bye.
Thank you, our special guests.
Bye, Omowunmi. Bye,